Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Sorry I went a little bit quiet on you for the last few days. I had to cancel 3 recordings while I covered that last-minute trip to Rome last week with Hawaii. And when I returned home, I had a bit of a leak to deal with, so I had to cancel another podcast. And I also had a guest cancel on me at the last minute due to a meeting. So I've actually lost 5 episodes. So this week, it's time for me to get back in my podcast chair and fill up my hopper again, so that you guys don't think I just walked off into the sunset, never to grace your earballs again. Bad news, gang. As Sylvester Stallone said in Rocky 3, you ain't never getting rid of me. But enough of me grovelling to you all with an apology. Let's get today's guest on the show and see what we can learn from his story. So if you're a startup founder, you might want to sit down, because I got a feeling that there are going to be some big value bombs dropped in your direction. Because today's guest is LD Mangin, and he is the CEO of a company called Confiant. But he's also a startup veteran who's worked on 5 startups and founded 2. So I wanted to find out more about his backstory, but I also wanted to find out more about how his team's SaaS solution actually works in real time to stop cyber criminals from redirecting users to fraudulent ads and destroying the reputation of publishers. So you know what that means. It's time for me to ask you to buckle up and say hold on tight, so I can beam your ears all the way to New York so we can speak with LD Mangin from Confiant. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
So thank you, Neil, very much for hosting me. So my name is LD Mangin. I am the CEO and co-founder of Confiant. We are an advertising security startup, and we just celebrated our 5th anniversary 2 months ago.
Fantastic. But before we explore what you're doing now, I think we need to explore your backstory a little bit, because you're somewhat of a startup veteran, and I believe that you've worked on 5 and founded 2. So can you tell me a little bit more about your backstory, and also maybe offer any advice to anyone listening that's at the beginning of their own startup journey?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I went to college in the US, to Boston College, and I actually dropped out and went to work on Wall Street. And so I spent a year plus working on the commodities trading desk of Prudential Securities, and it was fascinating to see the markets and to understand what was going on. But at the end of the day, it didn't really inflame me or impassion me. And so I went back to school and switched to computer science instead. And right after school, I went and joined a fintech startup out of London that really kind of launched my career into startups. This was 99, 2000 years, and so the first dot-com bubble had just burst. But the euphoria of entrepreneurism is really just something that caught me from the very beginning. And so my view of kind of how I built my career comes from a thought that I had many years ago, which is that you can't plan to be the person that has an idea. And so either you're going to have an idea or you don't. But what you can plan for is to be the person that knows how to translate an idea into a product and then into a business. And so that's what I trained myself at. And so that's why I always have worked in startups. Many of them have gone badly, and it's a great learning experience. Because when things are failing, you learn how to try and make it work and try and pull it together in ways that you don't. And so that's been kind of the main backstory for me, was that kind of career as a startup employee first, and then eventually as a startup founder myself. And then it's been an amazing arc.
Now, someone that has, like I said, worked on 5 startups and founded 2. You've been on a hell of a journey, and you're an incredibly busy guy. But I always want to get to know my guests a little bit better, and I feel compelled to ask you how you unwind. But before we started recording today, I did a little Google research on you, and it revealed offshore sailing adventures and working on your yoga handstands. So is there anything else we should know about today?
The sailing one is big. Not many people in the world have had the opportunity to experience sailing across an ocean, and so I consider myself incredibly privileged to have done it now 3 times, and being able to close my eyes and project back out into the middle of the ocean at any time means that I can really digest situations that would otherwise be more stressful without having that kind of very grounded, rooted feeling to myself. Beyond the yoga, definitely a lot of running. The my go-to at the end of a hard day, if things haven't gone my ways, I'm gonna just grab my running shoes and go and run really, really fast to kind of get the energy out and allow my brain to kind of simmer down and settle into what needs to get done, and so I can take those actions.
Fantastic. So I've got to ask then, I mean, what is the story behind Confiant, and what made you actually want to do something about fraudulent programmatic ads that are actually disrupting the market right now?
So when I was living in San Francisco, I was part of my first ad tech startup, which actually had as one of its founders, also one of the founders of DoubleClick. So it's when I first started really learning about ad tech and ad technology in general. I did my own startup out in social promotions while I was out there. And so when I came back to New York and started looking for my next opportunity, it was actually my co-founder that turned me on to the security side and the security issues involved in advertising. So basically, the position I was in when I'd come back to New York, I was running the division of a media company here in the digital out-of-home space. And within a year was starting to ask around to my network of friends and contacts and other entrepreneurs who knew someone who was really smart that was doing something interesting. And getting introduced to Jerome, my co-founder and our CTO, was what set off this mission of making digital media safe and protecting users and beating the bad guys. It's quite wonderful. With Confiant, we actually have a criminal as our competitor, and then so we orient ourselves on those criminals to drive our strategies and to drive our development and to drive our technology, because that's who the industry relies on us to protect them from.
So if there's anybody listening anywhere in the world that's hearing about Confiant for the very first time, can you just offer a little overview of exactly what it is, what problems it solves, and what makes it unique from other solutions out there?
Sure. So there are two vectors from which digital media is under attack from criminals. These criminals are often, by the way, organized crime, as well as other types of profiteers of that nature. And so one vector is when the criminals create fake users to attack the real advertisers. So that's when they're doing fraud against the advertiser. The other vector is when those same criminals create fake advertisers to attack real users. So that's when they're looking to infect the user with malware, to drive the installation of an exploit kit, to drive the capture of information illegally. That's going to allow the criminal to get personal identifiable information on the user that they can then use to then social engineer interactions, as well as actually infect their computer and take control of it. So Confiant protects the user. Our mission is to capture those fake advertisers and to block them. So when we first started out, we looked at the broader ecosystem in terms of how the ad world dealt with this problem, and the methods that they were deploying to us fell flat. They didn't actually deliver an effective protection to the user, nor to the publishers that are tasked with that are responsible to the user for the environment that they deploy. And so we looked at the state of the ecosystem and looked at how companies like Google does their verification, and then we were overall very disappointed because we didn't see a level of the criminals that were doing these attacks. And matching the criminals is important because security at the end of the day is an arms race. And so doing security works, that means that we're constantly in a battle with a competitor who is looking to circumvent the systems that we deploy in order to get their attack completed. And so when we saw how the industry was treating this problem, it was using methodologies that the malicious actors could compromise the data being generated by those methodologies. And so we decided to innovate and build something that had never been done before, which is a system that could actually analyze the impressions that serve onto a website in real time and to block the individual bad impressions in real time as well. And so that system had nothing like that had ever been built or executed into the advertising ecosystem. And so we were the first. It is we filed a patent on it. So it's a patent pending technology, which we expect to have granted within the next 3 to 6 months. So super excited about that. and it allowed us to grow quite dramatically since going live with this technology, as we were the ones we have proven ourselves to be true innovators that actually look at a problem and go to the root of it to find the right solution. Too often, both whether this is individuals or companies, they will look to treat a problem just at a surface level without actually thinking of the deep implications for how their clients are using technology, why they're using it, and what they needed to do on their behalf. And so it's actually one of our core company values, our cultural values, is to solve the real problem and to keep asking the why, so that we can really get to the root of the issues.
I spoke to the guys at AdBank last week, and they were telling me our hacker group is currently receiving $5 million every day just by generating fake clicks, and also that ad fraud is organised crime's second most profitable source of income now, second, of course, to drugs. I mean, the scale of this problem is just phenomenal, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And so the what's been most interesting is figuring out how to wean the industry off of the money these criminals are spending, because the reality is that they are paying for the ads that they serve, but those ads have malicious content hidden inside of it. They're ads that are doing forceful redirections and taking people to text scam pages. The most ubiquitous one is the free Amazon gift card that everyone wins half a dozen times a day. The scale of the issues is significant, and it isn't stopping. So that vector of it is something that the criminals are using constantly to both increase their money as well as launder money too.
So how does Confiant's SaaS solution work in real time to stop these cyber criminals from redirecting users to fraudulent ads and end up actually destroying the reputation of publishers? So can you tell me a little bit more about the tech behind it and how you do that?
Absolutely. So when we realized that we needed to build a real-time system, it became a question of looking at the types of security protocols we could use to actually do an analysis in real time. So for one, we sit on the client side. So that means that we're integrating ourselves into the website's ad server or onto their page, so that our system acts as a firewall in between the advertiser and the user. And so as the advertiser looks to execute their creative, their ad, our system is going to be there analyzing, in this case, technical term, the DOM, and analyzing the ad call to look and see what creative is loading, to look and see if we can recognize that and identify it as something that we know is bad, to look and see what domains are loading, as well as look and see what actual code is loading. So our system performs those three different analyses in real time, and the security protocol we use is one of static matching. That means that we can recognize that we see an ad that we don't know, in which case we record it and then we'll analyze it. So the next time we see it, we're able to act upon the information that we've gathered.
So just to help everyone listening understand how it works with real-world examples, can you share a few stories like the fake Amazon examples and the gift card redirect programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So when a user goes to a website, they know the address of the website. So we can use CNN.com. They click enter. An ad request is initiated from CNN as the page is loading into the programmatic marketplace, so into the automated buying and selling that occurs. And so the user's information gets sent up into the marketplace. A lot of different advertisers are going to bid. One advertiser is going to win, and then the advertiser's ad goes to be delivered back to the user. The way the malvertisers work is that they will have pretended to be a valid advertiser. So for instance, the biggest campaign we caught this summer was a campaign where the ad to the ecosystem, to the industry, looked like it was an ad for Chipotle. But the moment the ad actually loaded in the user's browser, it executed a forceful redirection where it takes control of the user's browser and overlays a full screen image that is interactive, that tries to engage the user to click and participate in a fake survey. So these criminals are pretending to be Amazon, giving away free gift cards in getting the user, the individual who's had this redirect occur, getting them to interact with the survey so that they start sharing personal information that's then going to allow the criminal to further hack the individual and potentially social engineer a way to infect themselves. What's fascinating in all this, so both my CTO and I are obviously, we are full-on security nerds. We love this stuff and we live and breathe it all day long. Both of our fathers have had these scams and fallen for them. It shows how prevalent these attacks are and how easy it is to get convinced to interact when, and actually we shouldn't. So that kind of core lesson of be careful what you click on absolutely still applies.
Again, just to understand and hammer home the scale of this problem that you're tackling, the recent ad quality report revealed that I think it was 1 out of every 200 ads coming through the open programmatic marketplace actually contains malicious code. Does that stat surprise you at all?
It does not. So we've been seeing that number in terms of 1 or 200, so 0.5% of programmatic ads being malicious fairly consistently now for several years. The overall volume of malicious ads has gone up tremendously because the ecosystem, the overall number of impressions that are being bought programmatically has gone up significantly. But the actual percentage of them that are malicious has remained consistent. And so one of the things one of the principles that we operate on is we truly believe that the world's most sophisticated advertisers are not the Procter & Gamble's and Coca-Cola's of the world. It are these criminals that are hijacking the advertising chain, hijacking the marketplace to serve up their malicious code. And as such, they have a very refined model that they operate on that is built to generate a significant amount of revenue for them, while doing so in a manner that keeps them off of the top 5 list of things that people need to solve in any given day. The digital ad ecosystem, the digital ad industry is one that operates in many ways in continuous fire drill mode. And so there's always the top 3 things that have to get solved today, that have to get done today. And as long as the malvertisers can calibrate their campaigns properly to be painful but not too painful, then they operate on the premise that they can slip under the radar, and that dealing with these issues will never be in that top 3. Now, the reality is that the industry, the rise of ad blockers for in desktop browsers, as well as the overall engagement that users have with digital ads, it has increased the awareness of the industry participants, of the publishers especially, that they do need to care about this, and they do need to manage their user experience to maintain a positive environment for the user, so that all the good advertisers are engaged as well, and that these types of malicious ads really are a detriment to the user, to the publisher, and to the industry as a whole.
So as we look towards 2019, what's next for Confiant? Are there any goals or objectives that you can share with us today? And equally, what 2019's got in store for yourself?
Yeah, no. So already in the past 12 months, we've tripled the size of our team. So we've been on a great growth curve that we're super excited to see continue into 2019. So there's likely another 50% growth in team size. And obviously that all ties back to the growth in clients and to the growth in volumes of what we see and do. Our big vision is one where we can scale our technology and scale our protection to the size of the industry. We believe in creating a world where there is maximum protection for all sites and all users at all times. And then so how do we achieve that has been one of the driving insights and questions that we've been dealing with now for years. And so we're very excited to be the first mover, to be the innovator in our industry and in our space. And we've got a lot of more innovation that's coming down the pipe in 2019 that we're super excited about. Some is as complex as moving our system from the client side to the server side so that we can block earlier and faster. Others include broadening our testing suite to more fully encompass all the different types of ads that happen. And then others are things that are more basic, like having actually hiring a marketing team and really start being a thought leader, as well as the technology leader, actually be the thought leader for the space as well. We operate in an industry that is relatively tight knit, and as such, there is a great opportunity to be not just the technology leader, but also the thought leader, and to educate people on and industry participants on these problems. And we're super excited to do that.
So anyone that's listened to our conversation today and our words have resonated with them, or the challenges that we've discussed, if they've resonated with them as well, can you just remind them of where they can find you guys online, and maybe even contact a member of your team if they've just got any questions after our conversation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So our site is www.confiant.com, so CONFIANT. And there's a contact form there, as well as reaching out to the team on LinkedIn. We've got a growing sales and support structure that we're super excited about. And so we're always definitely looking to hire great staff and build our team out, and as well as increase our penetration with more publishers and more platforms as we continue scaling our security system. You
really are a bit of a modern adventurer. You're navigating through uncharted digital waters, and you've got the whole sailing the world thing and yoga headstands, of course. Is there any other big goals that you're going for in 2019 that you could share with us? Anything a little bit off the wall?
So for 2019, I don't have anything specific that I'm aiming for next year, but one of my big ones that I've been aiming for a while now is to actually do a solo transatlantic. Up until now, all my ocean crossings have been with other crew, and so I'm excited to set the challenge of doing one myself. So that's the big thing that I'm working towards, and that will take a few more years of planning to get there.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story with me today, and I wish you the best for 2019. Thanks for coming on again, Aldi.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. You have a great day.
The fact that ad fraud is organised crime's second most profitable source of income is a real eye-opener. It shows you the scale of this problem. And I loved Aldi's example of those Amazon gift voucher examples that we've all encountered. And even though Aldi works in the industry, he himself readily admits that he's been a victim of clicking on those ads too. But I love the story behind it, what shaped his startup career, and how he's making a difference right now. And I do wish him the best for the future, and I hopefully get him back on next year, and how he's getting on with that battle against the bad guys. Now, also, I don't want to apologise too much on one show, but there is something else I wanted to apologise to you all for. Around 2 weeks ago, I noticed that there's a loud static hissing coming from my Blue Yeti mic, which is the mic that I've spoken to you all since episode 50. I've noticed that this loud static hissing coming from that mic, even when I'm not speaking. And yes, I can tackle many of these problems through Audacity, and it can cause the audio to sound a little digital in places. So I reported it to the guys at Blue Yeti, and they kindly offered me a replacement if I post my existing microphone back and wait for 2 weeks to get a new one. So I think I'm going to have to pick up another cheaper microphone and then send the Blue Yeti off to Amsterdam, and hopefully any sound issues you've had should be resolved by then. But I just wanted to let you know that if you had noticed a drop in audio quality over the last few weeks, don't worry. I'm on it like a car bonnet, as they would say over here in the UK. Sorry, I went off again, a tangent, didn't I, as usual. If you want to message me your insights about today's podcast and a conversation around ad fraud and what Confiant are doing, remember, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But that's it for today's podcast, and hopefully for any drama too. So I'm now going to do a little research on Black Friday tech deals. Do I really need to buy a turntable and buy back all the albums I sold in the 80s to buy again on CD before selling and then just streaming music and now come full circle? Of course not. But it won't stop me getting caught up in all the madness. But I will make you one promise. I won't be wrestling women and small children to the ground in supermarkets for large TVs on the news. I'm not going to be that guy. One quick tip, if you are looking for deals on Amazon, rather than get dragged into things that haven't actually dropped in price, a little tip, if you use Google Chrome, download the Camel extension, where pretty much you can bring up a list of all the products that you're interested in, not just before Black Friday, but all the time. And you actually get a notification as soon as the price is dropped. Takes out all the hassle and also highlights to you how those sale prices are not always sale prices at all. Oh no, there goes the exit music, which means it's time for me to stop rambling on and leave you all now, but I will return tomorrow. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.